The Coach Curl podcast is brought to you by Think and Grow Business, the home of the Think and Grow Business Mastermind. If you're serious about growing your business, get serious and join a mastermind group today. Find out more at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au.
Hey there, it's Coach Curl here, and welcome to episode 192 of today's Leader, the Coach Curl podcast. I had the absolute joy recently of interviewing Catherine Roy for this particular podcast episode. Now, Catherine is the CEO and founder of LHM Academy and LHM Media, and LHM stands for Live from the Heart and Mind, which is her best-selling book that she authored over the last number of years. Now, Catherine is an inspiration. I first connected with Catherine a number of years ago through the Bryant McGill group called the Royal Society. And in that time since, it's been an exciting journey to be on for everyone that's been part of that group, but it's also been especially exciting watching how others have thrived in that supporting environment. So just to roll through some of the things that Catherine has been acknowledged and recognised for, she was Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women Program for Business Development. She received the top 30 under 30 young entrepreneurs. She's listed as in the top 20 global female thought leaders and influencers on the future of work. She's the top 100 women business-to-business thought leaders to follow in 2020 and the top 100 business-to-business thought leaders and influencers on technology. So she has become a powerhouse in her own right. Her writings have been published on the Huffington Post, on Simple Reminders Media, McGill Media, Positive Linking. I believe she's also been quoted and mentioned in Forbes. So she's quite a powerhouse. Her story is one that is quite amazing. It was such a joy interviewing Catherine on the Thursday morning that we had the interview. So it was Thursday morning, 28th of May for me here in Brisbane. It was still the day before where Catherine was in Europe. So I bring you Catherine B. Roy.
Way to go, guys. Way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul. I see you. All right, Charles. Finish us. Coach Carl. Great job, guys.
So it's my pleasure today to welcome to the Today's Leader podcast. I've got Catherine B. Roy. Good afternoon. What time is it where you are in Europe, Catherine?
I'm in Novi Serbia, and it's 11 p.m. here.
11 p.m. It's 7 o'clock here in Australia in the morning. I've just been for a 5K run, and Catherine's probably thinking about going to bed. So I really do appreciate the fact that she's given up her time today. So, Catherine, we initially connected through the Bryant McGill Royal Society and the group that Bryant and Jenny put together in Facebook. So I know a little bit about your story, but I've been in awe in watching you, how you've put the pieces together with some of the stuff that we learned through the Royal Society. So tell my listeners this Catherine B. Roy story.
Thanks so much for having me, first of all. And actually, yes, I was a programmer for 13 years, working in the corporate. And I had a very hectic life. I was born in a dysfunctional family. I survived war in ex-Yugoslavia. I survived deadly illness. And then I just realized there has to be something that I can do with my life. So actually, I wrote a book. Now, when you mentioned Brian endorsed me for the book. And thanks to that and to you guys from the Royal Society, my book became a bestseller in the United States in 2017. That was the moment when we actually wanted to move to United States. But something even more beautiful happened. After they diagnosed me with infertility, I've discovered that I'm pregnant. So we decided to stay. And I became a mom. And now I'm mom. I have a son who is 3.5 years old. So during that period, I was growing my business. My online branding and reputation started to grow after publishing my book, and I was starting to work as a personal growth coach. But very fast, because of increasing the online visibility and all of that, people started to reach out to me to coach them about business. I'm a master of economics, and that's like my jam. So I started working as a business coach, and I discovered the beauty and the power of LinkedIn. So last year, between September and December, I actually tripled my business. And now during the isolation, I did the same. So that's about it. I now enjoy being guest on podcasts and in public speaking and all of that, and connecting with people all around the world. Something that I have never dreamed that I can do. I'm actually living my dream now.
It's such an amazing story, and the ability to shift and pivot along the way. So, and it's good that you're utilising, your economics background to be able to help businesses all over the world. I presume you've got clients all around the world, and because LinkedIn is such a 100% global platform. So I'm really interested, Catherine, to understand some of your key thoughts around things that people face every day, whether it's in their leadership careers or just day-to-day living, but predominantly around a business sense. We've got, reports suggest that we've got about 70,000 thoughts that enter our heads every day, which is quite overwhelming. And within that, there has to be a degree of failure and fear within those thoughts. Based on what you've been through and what you observe and what you've studied and the people that you work with, how do people maneuver around those constant feelings of being critical, being self-critical, maybe the self-talk that they go through?
Yeah, that's definitely crucial, especially now during the isolation. We are recording this during the isolation. People are afraid and things are just uncertain. But if you look back in what I've lived, for example, I was 17 years old when I was living in basement 78 days. I didn't know if I will live another day because the bombing was going on. So my mindset is pretty much different because I already lived through something so challenging. And that is the real fear. So I realized that everything else is very questionable if it is a real fear. So I studied a lot. I'm a Mensa member, and I studied mind a lot and mindset and everything around brain and intelligence and all of that. And what I discovered, actually, fear is just a mechanism of our brain to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And if we see it in that way, then we will realize that it doesn't exist at all. The same is with procrastination or any kind of, distraction. So from that perspective, if we just understand that fear doesn't exist and that feeling of being uncertain is actually a calling to do something, then we can turn around the story and we can start working for ourselves. The main thing which helped me was eliminating blockages in my mindset and realizing that I'm enough. So if we understand that we are magnificent human beings, each and every one of us, basically we are perfect, the most perfect beings on this planet. So every one of us has something that this world needs. Otherwise, I believe we wouldn't be here. And that's something that I actually learned when they diagnosed me with Coxsackie virus. And Coxsackie virus is actually maybe even more risky than coronavirus. It was in 2008. They told me that I will live just a year and a half because of the state of my heart, which was attacked by the virus. So since Western medicine couldn't help me, my mom took me to monastery and I spent 7 days over there. And there was one monk who actually told me that the illness was a sign that I was on the wrong path, that everything is going to be okay, and that this world needs love, and I'm love. But I was 24 years old. I didn't understand that. What happened, Tony, is that I came back home and I did medical tests again and I was perfectly healthy.
Wow.
As someone who was a completely scientific girl, I was picked in the high school to go to scientific center when I was 15 years old. I published scientific work when I was 70. So that was all mumble jumble for me. I couldn't get it until I lived it.
Yeah.
You know, so I realized I have the power to change and to create my life. And I gave myself permission to try. That's the only thing and the key that we can do to eliminate fears and all of that. So that just doesn't exist. That's the point.
You've been through real fear. Like in Australia, we've got no concept of going to sleep of a night thinking that we're under attack or we're under threat or that there's going to be bombs raining around it. So in my concept, I'm thinking that is real fear. And when you confront real fear, it really helps you deal with the day-to-day concept that we put in front of us, the blocks, the obstacles, whatever we want to call them. The fears that we believe are there are probably not real. And I think from out of this crisis, there's a real discomfort, obviously, that people right around the world have had to face. And hopefully by going through that discomfort, they've learnt a little bit more about themselves, because I think I love what you shared, because confronting real fear is where we really start to get deep within ourselves and realize also the potential that we have and what's been stopping us in the past. So when we're looking at advice that you've been given, because you're recognized, you've got numerous awards around your thought leadership and the advice that you provide, and you know, what you do on LinkedIn is absolutely amazing. But in your journey, what's the best advice that you've ever been given?
Yeah, that was one conference. I was actually in the economic recovery team for the national economy back then, after the war. And a lady who was organizing the event wrote me on a piece of paper something, and she gave that to me. Yeah. And I will never forget that. She wrote, get out of your shell and show the world what you can do.
Oh, wow. Well, you've certainly done that.
Yeah. I was 24 back then. Now I'm 37. So yeah.
So when you're looking back on the 24-year-old Catherine, what amazes you about that?
Oh, that's like a completely different person. Yeah, she was so afraid, and she just didn't realize what she can do. And she was, you know, like everyone who just finished college, got a job, and was amazed by the fact that she started to work, that she started her own life. But very soon things get, you know, boring. Yeah. And then she had awakening and created all of this.
Yeah, but it's so easy for people to fall into that day-to-day life rut, and then all of a sudden we poke our heads up and it's 20 years gone by and we sort of think, what happened? So
what happened, yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful story. And the other thing that I like about that is we're talking a 13-year journey. So a lot of people are out there looking for success but want it tomorrow, or better still, they want it today. And the reality is that when we are transforming ourselves, it is going to take some time. It is going to take a bit of a journey. You're in a fantastic spot where you are now, living what you call pretty much a dream life. But 13 years ago, that was a completely different story. But 13 years ago, you stepped up to the plate and said, I need to get out of my shell based on the advice, and you've done that. But it's taken you, you know, that journey along the way. And I'm sure that there's failures, there's ups, there's downs. It hasn't been a steady stream of success coming your way. We know journeys are all over the place. So congratulations.
Yes. Thanks. Actually, my mom said to me today, I said, you remember like 10 years ago, no one believed that I will do what I'm doing now. And she said, but you were working on that 10 years. Like, give yourself a slack,
Yeah, it's that whole persistence. I'm always reminded of a story of the couple that have just retired. They're like 65, and the wife says to the husband, I really wouldn't mind going to uni to do my bachelor degree on whatever it may be. And the husband says, you're going to be 70 by the time you finish. And she says, I'm going to be 70 anyway. So there's that real concept of I may as well be 70 with a bachelor degree around something that I love, and just be 70. So there's a real story out there for people that, time is never an issue until it becomes an issue. And I mean that in the most conscious way that I can, because, at the moment, if you're listening to this, if you're managing in a job, if you're out and about, if you're exercising, if you're living life, time isn't an issue. Time becomes an issue when you're lying on that deathbed. And that's one of the real big challenges. So if something's going to take you 10 years, if something's going to take you 5 years, take the time today to start that journey and really be conscious about the length of time, and be honest with yourself that it's going to create some challenges for yourself in terms of habits, behaviours. Now, one of the things I talk about is conscious leadership, and where I help leaders lead transparently with intention. So I see a lot of leaders operating at a subconscious level, allowing their emotions and feelings to, and they tell me that that's authentic and that's natural, and I don't necessarily take that. So to me, we need to have an intention as a leader. So you work with a lot of business leaders. What are some of the key attributes that you see in the best leaders that you work with?
Well, actually, there is a level of self-awareness which is like mandatory for healthy leadership. The second is the basically elimination of the ego, because very often ego is connected to leadership, but actually it's opposite. The greatest leaders are those people who can affect people in a positive way and make huge impact without actually, using people or manipulate them. And what I discovered is that I was recently working with few people who are very, very high level leadership, and they're just amazing people. Sometimes we are afraid of successful people, maybe thinking that who knows what they know or how they live, and they live like different life, but actually they all have hearts and minds. And when you tap into that a healthy human connection with anyone, especially someone who is in the leading position, you realize that the main quality is something that, what I like to say these days, artificial intelligence and machine learning cannot take over. And that's actually the empathy, creativity, and innovation. And that's a new form of leadership, which I see being developed, and something that I would like to take a role, like a main leadership in the world, actually.
Yeah. So everyone has a heart and mind. I love that. It's such a simple statement, but it's so true, because once again, I see leaders out there that say business is business, and people build their status around, their position, their title, but everyone has a heart and mind. And, when we break it all down to that, and we have empathy for our other people, it really does help us lead. So, because our first focus should always be on our people and how we can deliver the best outcomes for themselves, for them, because if we're doing that, we're actually helping ourselves. So ego, talk me through a little bit more about that. So ego from a leader is, in some respects, I would imagine there is a healthiness around ego because it helps breed confidence within. So if you have a good, strong, healthy ego and you've got confidence in your ability and you're leading intentionally, that can be a positive thing. But where does it go wrong then when it comes to ego?
I actually saw lately a few of very, if I may say, powerful people who have strong personal brands online crashing down during the isolation
Yeah.
while I was driving, because actually they allowed ego to lead along the way.
Okay.
Now when people need understanding and sympathy and empathy and all of that, ego is healthy when it's actually feeding our soul or heart and mind,
Yeah.
when we need, for example, to step on the stage to have a public speaking event,
Yeah.
or talk about important contract or something like that, in the world where you need to be confident. But the truth to be told, again, everyone has a heart and mind, and when you connect on that deeper level with people, you actually understand that ego can just crash you down. Or
Yeah.
what people are now perceiving in terms of personal brand is actually wrong. I call that a reputation branding. I like to
Ah,
build a reputation around my name. So all the awards and everything that you mentioned are a part of my reputation. But people who have similar results are presenting that on very, egocentric way, and that actually push away people, because people don't care about my success. They care about how I can help them achieve success.
yeah.
And when we turn that perspective around, and when we step in the position to lead people in order to show them the right way, we actually see the ego crashing. What's very important is what you actually mentioned. You mentioned feelings and emotions, and I make a huge distinction between those two terms. Feelings are pure, like love is a pure feeling, but emotions are processed through our mind. So those are feelings processed through our mind. And if our mind is toxic and infected by a high level ego, it can be actually destructive. It
Yeah.
can, create anger and dissatisfaction or something like that through our mindset. And that's like putting, a seed into unhealthy ground. That plant is not going to be healthy. But if you put a seed in healthy ground, in the healthy mindset, which has a balance between ego, heart, and mind, then actually you might succeed. So if we look back into history, some of the greatest leaders were very egocentric,
Yeah.
but that was all very destructive for everyone else around. Now I also believe there are people who can lead, not in the political sense, but someone like Tony Robbins or Oprah or something like that, who actually are not leading from the spot of ego.
Mm. And emotions and feelings, a lot of people, and it's good that you brought that up because it's actually part of what I wanted to talk about today. Because, there's a huge theoretical study, and people talk about emotional intelligence like all the time now. It's just one of those things that people talk about. And people get the wrong feeling around emotional intelligence. Some people say it means that I've got to suppress what I'm feeling, what my emotions are. And to me, it's not about suppression. So in your mind, what roles do emotions and feelings play for a leader in being the best that they can?
Well, actually, that ended up to be like the most important thing in my case. I am a Mensa member. Mensa is a high IQ society, and that's the only official test for IQ. And they measured my IQ, which is above 156, so they actually can't measure it above. So this is the fact. I had a pure intelligence very high in my life, but I didn't have success. I was struggling. I was unhappy. In one moment, I was even in depression. What changed is when I started to recognize my emotions as a guiding force in terms, if this feels well, go that way. If it doesn't feel well, just don't go that way. So I started to work on my intuition. I started to work a lot on my inner self and developing the emotional intelligence. And the emotional intelligence, I believe, is one of the main things which human beings have, and actually other beings on this planet don't have, or the computers, programs, machines can't have. That's like a power which, if we recognize, we can bring a lot more success. So if you look on my journey and now journey on LinkedIn, where everyone is in business mindset, I was at one moment afraid to step out because I'm not a classical business coach. I am coaching people how to get much more leads, visibility, how to get much more clients, but I speak from my heart. And it was a question how people on LinkedIn are going to react on that. But those are the same people who are on Facebook and on Instagram. And everything turned out to be like perfectly fine. I even listened to Gary Vee talking about emotional intelligence, and I wouldn't give it a perspective in terms of, maybe the term is wrong, like intelligence. It's just a recognition of our emotion and a high level of intuition, which actually can help us to decide if we're going to take that job, if we're going to take that client, if we're going to go this way or that way. It can be helpful, but we need to know what we are doing. It's not just like we can guess.
Trusting your intuition is just something that so many people just don't do. And usually I'm reading a book at the moment. It's called The Edge by, I think it's Michael Hecker. I might have got that name wrong, and he talks about intuition, that most people only pick up on their intuition in hindsight. So it's that remorse, that regret. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I ask that girl to the dance? Why didn't I, invest money when the opportunity was there? And, it's so true. Most people listening and acting on and trusting your intuition is something that really good leaders learn to do. And it's not like, here's your 7 steps to trusting your intuition. It's something that you are going to go through and fail at times, but understanding when it's right and when it's wrong is really, really important. So you and me share so many similar thoughts, and that's why I guess that we've always connected. This is the first time we've ever had a conversation, so I really do appreciate the opportunity to do this, Catherine. But I'm really, just before we sort of sign off and you can hit the bed hopefully before midnight over there. So your book, Live from the Heart and Mind, there's always a story around the book. What brought you to bring that out into the public?
Actually, I started writing my book when I came back from the monastery after that time spent when they diagnosed me a Coxsackie virus, and I had no idea how it's going to unfold. But very, very soon after that, I always wanted to be a mom, and I was diagnosed with infertility. So that was another strong hit, and I needed to deal with it somehow. So as a scientific girl, I started to research, and I've discovered, I think everyone started, I found the Secret movie, and then the energy, and Nikola Tesla's researches around that. And I decided to practice meditation. I went with Oprah and Deepak on 21 days challenge. And I will be honest, nothing happened for the first few days. 4th day, I started to, if I may say, receive the information through the meditation. I didn't understand any of it. I was writing it down, and it was, sitting on my table just like that until I felt that needs to become a book. it was a feeling. It was a strong push, and I was struggling a lot. English is not my native language. For some reason, that information was in English, and I was writing in English. I had no idea how I'm going to publish that. And when I actually wrote it, I met a guy online, and we were discussing something about Buddha's quote, like very, very unusual. And I saw that his English is extremely powerful, and I asked him if he would like to read something and help me with my book. It ended up that that man was a professional editor. He was a journalist and a published author, and he actually edited my book and helped me to get published in the United States. The rest is history. Bryant and the Royal Society showed up, and I mean, my book was just over there.
That's awesome, and it's just interesting that when we start working on things and we're doing it with a purpose and a passion, it's amazing how many people start to show up and walk alongside us to help us get to where we need to be going. And sometimes we don't know these people exist half the time until we sort of get through that process. So that's a great story. What's been your greatest accomplishment that you've had so far in your career?
Well, somehow everything that I achieve, I just see as a step forward. The latest one was that I was awarded as top 100 global thought leaders, women thought leaders in the world. And for one girl who is from a small European country, that was huge. That was like very, very huge
Congratulations,
recognition. Thank you. And I was actually interviewed like 76 times after that. I love this. I really love this. and I think people can feel that.
Yeah, I certainly can. And congratulations. That's just such a huge achievement. And, as someone that's been very much in line with your thought process and watching your journey, it's been quite inspiring for myself to really branch out and really lift up and really try and uncover what I personally can achieve. And I'm sure I've got many listeners out there that are thinking along the same line. So we all have our own journey to play. Some may be a little bit longer. And as we've heard today from yourself, yours has taken 13 years. You've had wins, you've had losses. But you've enjoyed the journey. You're sitting here with a wonderful smile on your face, and I just wish my listeners could see that because, I think that says it all. If you can enjoy what you're doing, you can enjoy the journey. Success is ultimately going to come. So that's
it's just following you. It's just following you. And if I may add, when I was starting out, actually on the LinkedIn back then, I just had a profile. It was just a CV. You were one of the few first people who actually supported me and gave me the recommendation. And I was just, as I see myself, I was taking baby steps, and I will be honest, I had no idea what I was doing there. Now they call me LinkedIn Ninja, but I would like to thank you for that because you were one of those people who supported me and gave me a hand when I was just starting out and I was really afraid of what I'm going to do.
It was my pleasure, Catherine. And ultimately what I see is that whenever we're stepping into the unknown, there's very few people that know what they're doing. It's really just, let's step into this and see what happens. And we don't know whether we're going to plummet or whether we're going to soar. And I suppose part of our mindset is about which choice am I going to make? The old saying, even if I'm falling, I'm going to be growing wings on the way down. So it's all part of our journey. So how can people connect with you? So if someone was really incredibly inspired, I'm sure they will be. How can they connect with you? What's the best way?
The best way is over my website, catherineberoy.com, and I'm on all social media, but mostly on LinkedIn as Catherine Beroy.
You've had some challenges with Facebook, so and I find Facebook incredibly interesting because little old me had my YouTube channel pushed aside by YouTube for one of their. I've still got no idea what I did, but apparently I breached their terms and conditions. And you've had a similar bit of a story in relation to a page that you had with over 35,000 people on it. So one of the interesting things that I see moving forward, especially for people in the world that we want to play in, is we've got to own our platform, so that we're not at the mercy of others who can just make a strike based on some random complaint, because I think that that's wrong. And as you mentioned, everyone's got a heart and mind, but sometimes when you're dealing with an algorithm from Facebook or an algorithm from YouTube, they don't have a heart and mind. And we're starting to lose that people to people, that person to person connection. So I would contact Catherine via her website. That's catherinebroy.com. And also she's very easily found on LinkedIn. And I think that's her platform of choice. And she has many followers. Thank you very much for your time today, Catherine. It's been an absolute pleasure having this chat. And, I'd love to have a chat again on a fairly regular basis on the Today's Leader podcast. So I think the value that you bring to the world is one that I certainly want to share with my listeners. So thank you very much for your time. And you can now officially go to bed.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I will come back whenever you wish. And you have a great day. And I guess I will have a nice sleep now.
No worries. Thanks, Catherine.
Join the group of people impacted by seriously simple stuff to get you unstuck. The first book by Tony Coach Curl. Available at Amazon, Tony's Simple Stuff provides the tool for people to master your life and aspirations. 20% of every book sold supports Carter's cause.
So I hope you really loved that interview. So one of the key takeaways that I had from Catherine, and there were so many, but I really want to just focus on one. It was the very simple concept that everyone has a heart and mind, and it is just so relevant. Too often we get caught up in this world of leadership, in the world of business, and we make decisions based around data and finances, and it's just business, and I get that. We need to make decisions at sometimes around data, but everyone has a heart and mind. Everyone has a heart and mind. And one of the key focuses that when I'm working with leaders, one of the key focuses a leader should have is always on their people. And if you can capture and connect with them so that you can capture their heart and their mind, you are going to have a much more productive person, a much more engaged employee than what you will ever have dealing with them as like a piece of data or some financial spreadsheet. So there was a really key aspect there that Catherine spoke about. Everyone has a heart and mind. We know that. So please, when you're leading, focus in on your people. Have that always front of mind as one of those primary focuses. Now, that doesn't mean we make excuses for our people. That means that we're caring for them. And sometimes caring for someone means that we've got to cut the shoestrings, that we've got to let them go, that we've got to be a bit of a tough taskmaster. That's what caring for our people is. We need to be making them better. So Catherine's interview was an absolute joy. I'm sure that you took so much away. Her words around ego is something that's absolutely relevant today for every leader who wants to be a conscious leader, working transparently with intention, because that's what's going to make you a great leader. Thanks for listening. I hope that you've taken away a huge amount of value out of today's podcast. Don't forget, we are sponsored by both Think and Grow Business and the Coach Curl Academy. At the Coach Curl Academy, we enhance the mindset, the leadership and business of people right around the world with over 75 programs that are now available for people to undertake and partake. If you want to check out especially the Coach Curl Academy, head on over to the coachcurlacademy.com and you can sign up for the first 30 days for just $1 jolly Australian dollar. So it's a fantastic place to come along, and just make sure that it's the place that you want to be. So just $1, $1 Aussie dollar for the first 30 days. As always, where you are standing stronger, braver and wiser. And don't ever, ever forget the golden rule. Yes, you know what that is. Don't be an arsehole. I'll see you.